A cop's crossroads with love. Will an old flame make Cassidy bend the rules? Cassidy threw up her hands in anger. Today was already not going well, and now to have this random jerk blocking her from a routine traffic ticket was just a tipping point. She released her seatbelt and twisted her body to the side as she rummaged through her duffel bag on the passenger seat. Not only was it hard enough being the only female in this precinct, but to make matters worse, today her partner had called out sick. Cassidy was one tough cookie, though. She knew exactly what she was going to do in order to regain control over the situation. Her side ached as she reached her small 5'3" frame up and over the center console. She could just barely manage to grip the one loop of her bag with her pointer finger, but was relieved to be able to hold it up long enough to allow her other hand access to the bag's contents. Finally, she felt her hand graze over the item she had been searching for, with quick intention. Cassidy grabbed it and without hesitation jumped out of her police cruiser. Without a moment to waste, she raised the item to her lips and proceeded to yell into the megaphone. "This is the police. I am ordering you to move your truck now, or risk being arrested. I am not joking around. You have until the count of 5. 1, 2." Cassidy barely got to 3 when suddenly the man jumped out of the front of his truck. She dropped the megaphone and reached instead for her revolver. She had her hand on it, ready to draw at any moment, but when she saw the man's face, her body reacted in a peculiar way. Suddenly, Cassidy had lost her spunk and control. Immediately, she was thrown back to her high school days as none other than Jacob Roberts was walking towards her, just as he had done many times in the hallway. Jacob had been in the grade above Cassidy's, and almost everyone had had a crush on him, including Cassidy. It was hard not to fall for the man, as he was a top-A student, captained the varsity soccer team, and an all-around gentleman. Cassidy had tried so many times not to like him, but she failed every time. To make matters worse, their families were friends, and that meant Cassidy spent a lot of time with Jacob growing up. Their families even had vacation together for several summers. She knew he only viewed her like a little sister, though, which hurt Cassidy more than she liked to admit. Cassidy caught her breath and turned her face away for a brief moment. She could tell her cheeks were hot and turning a bit of a rosy color. She felt silly for feeling this way and chided herself for acting like a foolish schoolgirl. Cassidy managed to regain her composure just as Jacob walked up to her. He towered over her slightly with his 6'4" muscular frame. Jacob flashed his winning smile and beamed his trusting blue eyes right at her. Cassie made sure not to react to his cute grin, or the adorable dimples that appeared when he smiled broadly. Instead, she doubled down on her stern demeanor and debated for a moment if she should wait for him to say something. The decision ended up not being up to her, as Jacob spoke first, and he did not even pretend to not know her. "Cassidy Burns? I almost didn't recognize you, Cass. How have you been?" He started to lean down into a hug, to which Cassidy promptly stepped back and began waving a clipboard in front of him. She tried not to see the hurt look in his eyes, as it was important to her that he know that although they may have a past together, it definitely does not affect their role or the outcome of the infraction that has taken place. Cassidy cleared her throat and clicked her pen in such a serious manner that Jacob did a double take of the situation and withdrew himself backward a few steps. He rubbed the back of his neck nervously and then swatted a few beads of sweat that were coming down above his brow. Cassidy felt her power and control return, and she smiled on the inside. "Mr. Roberts, it is good to see you after so many years. However, are you aware of the charges being brought against your crew?" Cassidy watched as Jacob looked over his truck to see the members of his roofing company cowering near their work van. There looked to be about 5 of them, 4 men and 1 female. Cassidy was impressed to see the woman, but knew she had to remain focused on the task at hand. It was clear that Jacob was trying to prevent her from talking to them, and that made her a bit suspicious of him. Even though growing up Jacob had always done the right thing and had been chivalrous, it had been more than 10 years now since they last saw each other. Cassie prayed that Jacob was still that man today, because otherwise this was about to get even more awkward fast. Yeah, I know about the charges, Miss Cassidy. That's Officer Burns, thank you. Well then, Mr. Roberts, you know what I need you to do then. Move your truck so we can just get this over with and go on with our lives. Go on with our lives? How exactly is that going to work out for my crew if I move my truck, Officer Burns? Don't you see I'm protecting them? Cassidy sighed. Clearly, Jacob still saw himself as the hero, and she admired his care for his crew. But the law is the law. He has to understand that, right? Mr. Roberts, it is very noble of you to want to protect your crew, but my time and patience are wearing thin now. Cassidy said a silent prayer that she would not have to call for backup. She knew what it would look like to be other officers, and she wanted to prove that she could handle these types of situations on her own. She breathed a sigh of relief as Jacob turned and started walking to the driver's side of his truck. Attaboy, she thought. Cassie was just about to resume writing up the ticket when all of a sudden Jacob appeared standing right next to her. Very close to her. Too close to her, she thought. Her head began to spin a little as she took in his fresh pine aftershave scent. He looked at her with an intensity and sincerity that made her feel weird. No one ever looked much more than noticing her uniform, but the way Jacob looked at her was different. He saw her. He could see the real Cassidy, and no cop uniform could hide her from him. She clung to her clipboard as it was the only barrier between them. He leaned down close and said something that completely caught her off guard. Take me instead, Cass. To be continued.